Hi, we are going to be working problem 1015 from our book. It's on page 469, and it'll be your homework problem for chapter 10. Just you'll be working in Connect and have some different numbers. So in this problem, we are looking at a budget and the flexed budget for a company that makes little plastic swimming pools, right? And so if you look at this, they did a pretty good job. They, they weren't too far off, except for one spot where it looks pretty scary, and that's their cost of goods sold, right? I mean, if you look, there's their fixed, there's their overhead, right? There's, of course, the flex budget, the sales are going to be the same. Variable selling expenses were the same. So the big problem is cost of goods sold. Well, what is cost of goods sold? Well, cost of goods sold is what your inventory cost. What does your inventory cost? Well, it costs your raw materials, direct labor, and your variable overhead is what goes into your finished goods inventory. Your finished goods inventory is what you sell, so that's your cost of goods sold. So there's something wrong here with their COGS, so that's got to arise somewhere from either direct material, direct labors, or overhead, or some of each, right? So this is what they've got, and of course, to do this kind of problem, of course, we're going to need to have some standards. So the book gives us our standards, right? Here's our 3 pounds of, I guess, plastic, right? It costs $5 per pound. We use 8/10 of an hour to make it. We pay our labor $16 per hour. The variable overhead is based on 4/10 of an hour, $3 per hour, $1.20. So there's our standards. What we did in June, so this was for the month of June. In June we made 15,000 pools, right? We purchased 60,000 pounds, $4.95 per pound. We used 49,200 pounds, right? Don't worry about other inventories. The work was direct labor hours, 11.8 at 17 per hour. Variable manufactured totaled 18,290, and the machine hours was 5,900. Oh, I guess this is based on machine hours. Oh yeah, machine hours, not labor hours. So machine hours that we used, 5,900. All right, and they close all variances to cost of goods sold. All right, great. So we're going to do our normal variances, and then we'll kind of summarize them, and then we will figure out where the problem is, right? So I've already set us up here with our materials, right? So first we're going to look at the raw materials. So we do a price and a quantity variance, right? So this is going to tell me my price variance. This is going to tell me my quantity variance. You see, I'm just using one column like the book does. On the slides, if you watch the PowerPoints, the video lecture, we had this column twice, which would actually be nice because this is actually going to have, maybe I should have set it up with two because we purchased a different amount than we used. So could use two columns for that, but that's okay. I'll just kind of calculate it below. So starting out with column 1, the actual, right? We know that we purchased 60,000 pounds. So there's my actual quantity. And we know we paid $4.95 per pound. Right? So that gives me 297,000. Right? Okay. So AQ times PQ equals 297. All right, so now I need to look at my AQ times SP. So we know the standard is $5 per pound, right? And we know we bought 60,000, so my AQ is 60 times 5. So 60,000 times 5 is 300,000. So that means my price variance is 3,000, and it's actually favorable, right? Because I spent less than I thought I would, right? So this is my materials price variance right here. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, next variance, right? Quantity variance, right? So this is my price variance, this is my quantity variance, right? These two. But, right, so if I do my standard quantity times standard price, so if I made, what did I say, 15,000 pools, and it needs 3 pounds, right? So that's 45,000 pounds of plastic. How did I get that? 3 pounds times what I actually made. So that's 3 times 15,000. Okay, so that's my standard quantity. I should have used 45,000 pounds of plastic, and my standard price, I believe we said, was 5 already. Oh. That's a 5. Alright, and that's 5. 45,000 times 5 is 225. But I can't compare it to this. Because my actual quantity in terms of this is what I actually used, 49,200. So let's redo my AQ times my SP using my actual quantity used. So that's 49.2 times 5. 49.2 times 5 is 246, right? So comparing these two, my actual quantity variance, right, is equal to 240. That's 21,000. That is that is an unfavorable variance, right? Because I should have spent 225, but I spent 246. So 21. And let's see. That's it. But you know what? We could have just used the materials price variance equals AQ times AP minus SP, right? So that's equal to 60,000, the actual quantity, times 495 minus 5 is equal, so it's a nickel, times 60,000 is equal to 3,000. So we got the same number. My material quantity variance is equal to SP, standard price, times actual quantity minus standard quantity. So that's equal to 5, right? The standard price is 5 times 49,200 minus 45,000, and that is equal to 21,000. I think that's easier than doing all that. All right, so that's our materials price variance. So let's put this in our summary then. All right, so we've already got the materials price variance, and it's 3,000. We got our material quantity variance, that's 21,000. All right, because we got to do our summary. All right, so we don't really need this anymore. Okay. Now we're going to do the labor rate and the efficiency. So we're doing labor. And again, if you want to look at this as quantity and this as price, that's fine. We're just doing the same thing. Actual times actual, standard times standard, and then the middle, actual times standard. All right. So in this case, it's labor. So the actual hours was 11.8. Times the actual rate, 17, equals 200,600. All right. And we take our actual hours, so still 11.8 times 16. 11.8 times 16, so that should have been, if we were budgeting it right, it would have been 188,800, right? So the difference between those two is our labor rate variance, and it's 11,800, and that's unfavorable. All right. So now we're going to look at our standards, right? So our standards would call for 0.8 hours per pool, right? And we made 15,000 pools. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go 0.8 times 15,000 is equal to 12,000. So we should have used 12,000 hours to make 15,000 pools. So the standard hours would be 12,000 times, what do we pay these people? $16 per hour. It's right there. So 12,000 times 16 is equal to 192,000. All right, so my labor efficiency, actually we did a little better, right? We have a 3,200 favorable variance, right? Labor rate variance is 11,800, and labor efficiency variance is, so I need to actually be writing down what these are. That 3,000 was favorable because I got to add or subtract eventually, and this was unfavorable. This is unfavorable, and this 3,200 is favorable. All right, and I don't know if the homework asked you to do this, but the spending variance right, 200,600 minus 192 is equal to 8,600 unfavorable. I don't know if your homework in Connect asked you to do that or not, but there's a spending variance on labor. All right, so the last thing is overhead. All right, so with overhead, so here's our standard, 0.4 based on machine hours. So it takes 0.4 machine hours and $3 per hour. Our actual hours on the machine was 5,900, right? Times, well, we know what we actually spent, 18 290. They don't, I guess. Divided by 5,900, 3.1. All right, so the actual hours is 5,900 times 3.1 is equal to, and we already knew that, we know that it's 18,290. All right. All right. So anyway, we already knew that, but that would be how you would put it out there. And the actual hours, so that's 5,900 times my standard, which is 3 per hour. 5,900 times 3 is 17,700. So this variance is unfavorable because we spent more than we should have by 590. All right, so the standard hours, so to make 15,000 pools, it should take 0.4 hours, right? So $15,000 times 0.4 is 6,000 hours. So it should have been 6,000 hours, and it should cost $3 per hour. So 6 times 3 is 18. All right, so then we've got a $300 favorable variance on the overhead efficiency, right? So variable overhead rate and variable overhead efficiency variance. Unfavorable, favorable. All right, so that was the last thing we needed to calculate, so I'll fill that into my summary. The variable overhead rate variance was 590 U, and the, oops, I left one out. The variable overhead efficiency variance is 300 favorable. So my net variance, right? So favorable you add, unfavorable you subtract, so you come up with a net variance. So 3,000 minus 21,000 minus 11,800 plus 3,200 minus 590 plus 300 equals 26,890 unfavorable. So that is my net variance. And of course, if I go back to what I budgeted, right? I thought I would have 6,000, right? But now I have to subtract out this 26,890. So 6,000 minus 26,890 is equal to 20,890, right? Of course. All right, 20,890, right? So, and that happens to be, if you look over here, right? There's my variance right there. It's in this cost of goods sold, and now I know that within the cost of goods sold, right, I had these unfavorable variances. Okay, So of course the last part of this question is pick out the most significant ones, right? Well, the biggest ones, right, are material quantity and labor rate. Material quantity, so I used more material, right? I didn't pay more, but I used more, and I paid my workers more. It was a labor rate variance. So how would you end up with this materials quantity variance? Well, maybe the prices have just gone up on those things. My standard is bad, right? That could be. Maybe we used more of it because it was low quality, so we had to use more to make our pools, or the machines were messing up, and so then we would have to scrap a pool, and then we'd have another one, right? Something like that. People don't know what they're doing, so they're making them wrong and using more materials. Just a lot of different reasons, but we would want to investigate all of anything, right, that we could think of that might lead to a quantity, why we're using more. Are people stealing it? Seems like the kind of plastic you would use to make pools wouldn't be something people would steal, so I probably would rule that out. Labor rate, so we paid people more. So again, did we give people raises and didn't count that in the standards? Did we have to pay people overtime, right? Was there something that happened? We had a big rush order to get out, so we made people work overtime, something like that. So those would be what I'd investigate. The rest of them look pretty small and nothing startling. So I would look at those two, and that would be that. Okay, all right, very good. That's it. Good luck on your homework.